The Cost of Courage. Written by Kelly Estes. Narrated by Dan McGowan. Dedication. This book is dedicated to those serving, to those heroes who didn't come home, to those who did, whose lives are forever changed, and to their families now struggling for answers. This novel is inspired by the story of brothers Donald E. Fitzmaurice, Sergeant, U.S. Army Air Corps 95th Bomb Squadron, gunner engineer, a Doolittle Raider, who served on the crew of the Green Hornet, and Richard W. Fitzmaurice, Second Lieutenant, 8th Army Air Force, navigator on the Salvo Sadie.
Preface. War is shit. I'll admit that I was mildly horrified when my great-uncle uttered these words during our first conversation about his experiences as a navigator in World War II. It definitely wasn't what I expected to hear, but I eventually came to find an appreciation for his no-nonsense attitude towards such a terrible subject. I eventually realized that he was trying to teach me something. This was how, at 15 years old, I learned the true meaning of love. It didn't come in the form of some crazy teenage crush or in the words of a romance novel. No. For me, it came in the pain of a true hero who suffered both physically and emotionally for his country, and who over 60 years later still mourned the loss of his brother as if it had just happened. This was first intended as a history project, something that I approached with only an uncharacteristic passion for the subject of World War II and an interest in preserving the history of the men who fought. Little did I know, it would turn into a life-changing experience for all involved and become a story that would haunt me for most of my teenage life. The war was a subject that my mother's family rarely discussed. Until that assignment, my uncle's death had become a memory of the past, and all that remained were personal recollections of this incredible person, memories that my grandmother, his sister, kept to herself for years. When I came across a news clipping from 1946 announcing that my great-uncle Donald had been killed in war and would be receiving the Distinguished Flying Cross for his act of heroism, I was both fascinated by his courage and also saddened by the loss of a 23-year-old kid who never had a chance to live, whose memory, I would soon find out, never left his brother's mind. Since my grandmother had passed, I found myself turning to my Uncle Richard for answers to my many questions about his brother. Just the mention of Donald was enough to dredge up every ounce of pain he had experienced, and needless to say, I felt terrible for asking. However, something happened during that first conversation. I quickly realized that through pain we had a connection. Though I was significantly younger than he, I too, under very different circumstances, had experienced.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?